Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, we are going to talk about what you can do to notice more things if your wife says you don't notice anything, and then you think that's just part of who I am. I cannot notice more things. This is some bullshit, and instead you can reframe and you can actually change something, and I will tell you how. Before that, I want to tell you all to subscribe. The most recent one was why, it is true nobody likes a whiner, and there's going to be some more upcoming ones. I think the next one, whatever I decide to do out of my head tomorrow, is going to be the next subscriber episode. Plus, there's all the ones about sex, relationships, boundaries, needs, more sex, etc. So you should be subscribing to get 100% of my episodes versus only 75%. And it may keep going down if I got to motivate you. You may end up with a third of the episodes being subscriber only, but not yet, because I still do like providing this service, same as my blog, that is pretty free. I mean, it's going to be free no matter what for the amount that are not subscriber only. It's never going to be 100% subscriber only. You have my word on that. Anyway, so moving on. So a lot of times guys say, my wife came home with a haircut. I didn't know. How the fuck am I supposed to know? It looks exactly the same as before. And she got mad at me. Or my wife rearranged the living room. I didn't realize. She got mad at me. My wife had some sort of interaction with our daughter where they were apparently mad at each other. She would have wanted me to step in and be on her side. I didn't even fucking notice they were fighting. What's the big deal? And she's setting me up to fail. I'm not a highly sensitive person like her, because I just recently learned that term from your podcast or from her telling it to me. And what's the biggie? Well, the big deal is, what if you walked out with, your dick out and, your wife started to talk about what cereal she wanted for breakfast? It makes you feel like shit when you're trying to implicitly convey something, which we all do being human, and the other person just fucking doesn't notice it because it doesn't even rise to the level of importance in their mind that they should have to notice it. And so, think about it. It's not, that weird that your wife would spend, $150 on a haircut and hope that you notice it. That isn't a her problem. It's a couple problem. And if it's her problem, man, it's your problem too. So as you've hopefully become aware, and if you have a problem, it should be her problem too. So yeah, what's good for the goose, etc. But then again, we don't want to go descend down that fair play rabbit hole of constant the tit for tat. So why don't you just work on you? Your wife notices more shit than you do. Literally, that's the point of who she is, probably, is an observant person. It's probably a major tenet of her core personality and self-identity, and yours isn't. Yours is the guy who forgets shit. So how can you change this? Well, first of all, as I said in the compliment podcast, you should be scanning your wife when she walks in the door or when she comes down in the morning and telling her she looks beautiful. Notice her. Literally, if you just stopped and noticed your wife, probably your marriage would be 1,000 times better if you're a guy that doesn't do this. You can just notice her from top to toe. Pretend you're in one of those things where, those really frustrating pictures where there's one picture next to another and there's something wrong, there's something different in between them, and you're supposed to notice that in one picture the guy has no sock or something. Well, look at her with that level of focus, and usually you're going to see something that's different or that's pretty, because if she walked in the door with the new haircut, by the way, and you were like, man, you look great in that outfit, she wouldn't give a shit that you didn't notice the haircut. She would laugh. She'd be like, oh, haha, it's probably the haircut, but you just thought I looked better. You thought it was the outfit. You're so cute. Let's have sex, right? So, but if you notice nothing, if she walks in and it's as though a ghost walked in because you notice absolutely nothing, might as well be invisible, then you're going to have marital problems, which you probably already have due to this trait. First of all, get used to scanning your wife from top to bottom and commenting positively on something. It doesn't matter if you catch the right thing. As long as you compliment positively on something, that's certainly 1,000 times better than what you were doing before. Next is get treated for ADHD. Listen to my podcast on ADHD. Figure out if you have it. If you have it, go get treated for it, or at least understand it by reading books like Driven to Distraction. But the first step is listen to my podcast about ADHD, because a lot of guys with untreated ADHD, they don't notice shit. The wife could forget about rearranging the living room. She could burn down the house and they could come home and not notice. So if you are somebody like that, and if you lose a lot of shit and forget a lot of shit, and you're always procrastinating, you're always cramming, and you always need adrenaline or coffee or 1,000 sodas to focus, you may have ADHD, and that's why your wife, you don't notice anything about her, because she could, her hair could be on fire and you wouldn't notice, and that is an ADHD problem versus your wife being passive-aggressive problem. The next one is examine your own resentment towards your wife. Maybe you are an observant guy. Maybe you do notice the haircut. But maybe you're like, I don't want her spending $150 on the fucking haircut. So then you're like, I'm not even going to notice it, because if I don't notice it, it's like my podcast with the guy who wouldn't call his wife beautiful because she was overweight. So he still have sex with her. He still thought she was sexy, but he wouldn't call her that word because he thought it would be reinforcing that he likes her body how it is. Now, obviously, you could tell from my tone and from literally the situation that that's really fucked up, and I made sure to tell him that, and hopefully was a dose of tough love that he needed. But either way, if you are passive aggressively not noticing shit, so you don't notice when the living room is rearranged because you think your wife should be working at a paid job and not just sitting around frittering away her time rearranging where the couch is, but you're not going to say that. Instead, what you're going to do is withhold compliments about the house. Now think about that. When did that happen to you? Because if you're a person that did that, you definitely learned that in your family of origin. Which one of your parents is a passive-aggressive fuck? Which one of them, when you went and played football and they didn't want you to play football, refused to even acknowledge that you were somebody who played football? Because if you could figure that out, then you know why you're doing it to somebody else, and you could try to work on it and realize it's not fair and it's sabotaging your marriage. So these are a few things. There's also, you may be depressed. Depressed people don't notice anything because they're in a fog. It can kind of look like an attentive ADHD because they don't know what's going on, because they can't they don't have the bandwidth. So your wife could come in with her head on fire and you wouldn't notice because you are thinking, okay, I have to check my email. I'm supposed to hang out with the kids. Okay, and then maybe I'll watch TV and drop asleep by 9 o'clock because you're so tired all the time, because fatigue is a big symptom of depression. So if you're generally kind of a negative or apathetic guy, if you have found it hard to have fun recently, by which I mean in the past year or 6 months or more, then maybe you are struggling with untreated depression that kind of makes it very hard to notice, or even if you notice, it makes it hard for anything to rise to the level where you care enough to say it, or where you think that it's important. So if that is the case, then apathy is a big hallmark of depression, and then that's something to think about and to talk to a provider about potentially getting treated. And therapy can be helpful, but meds can be helpful too. And you would have to think about whether is this a larger pattern? Is it hard for you to give a shit at work also? Does everything kind of seem stupid and meaningless there? And the same kind of dumb, careless mistakes that people make when they have ADHD, they make those same kind of careless mistakes when they're depressed. So that's why it can be hard to distinguish between ADHD and depression. The major one is the person with depression never smiles at all, and rarely laughs, and does not have good funny ideas or anything, like the person with ADHD, who kind of does still get excited, gets sometimes overly excited about shit, and is sensation seeking in that way. The person with depression, especially men, they're most likely don't really feel much about anything ever. So that's how you could tell. What else can you do? You can enlist your wife. You can say, listen, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me. I feel bad whenever I don't notice your haircut. Can you tell me when you get a haircut? And I'll look at it and I'll tell you what I think, because I always think you look beautiful. This is not my wheelhouse. Every time you come home, I feel bad that I didn't notice. Or if you do something with the house, or if you made a craft project with the kids that you hung on the wall, whatever it is that I'm not noticing, can you please help me notice it? Because I don't notice it and I feel feel bad. And this is just not my strong suit. I'm going to try to think about it. I'm going to try to proactively pay more attention. Like, think about it this way, about the paying more attention. If you're like, oh yeah, oh great, I could snap my fingers and pay more attention. How would you respond at work if they sent you a document to review and edit versus a document just to sign off on? Sign off on, you read it, you make sure it doesn't say that you're committing to like egregious fraud, and you're out. The one where you're supposed to edit it, you're actually reading it, you're trying to notice, oh, what could I word differently? I'm telling you to look at your wife like that. You could just put those goggles on. It's a lot different. You can proactively decide to look at her coming down the stairs in the morning in that way. You got 30 seconds of scanning on purpose. It's a different way that you look at your kid after they've been sick versus when they're just a regular kid, Like, so, all right, they're getting up, they're going to school. All right, cool, bye, versus if they had been ill. You look at them, you feel their head, you take their temperature, you ask how they slept, you look, see if their eyes are glassy. And if women are like, oh yeah, no, my husband, the kids could drop dead and he wouldn't notice. That's not true. If you were away and the kid was sick, the 99% of men would say, okay, I have to see if they have a fever before they go to school. If that was told to me as something to do, I am now going to own that is definitely something I'm going to do, and I'm going to ask the kid how they were, and I'm going to ask them if they felt better. So that is something you can do, and that is something that people do if the kid is sick versus the kid is healthy. So you can put on these different goggles where you're looking at things more closely. That is something possible. But while you are learning to do that, and while you're getting assessed for ADHD, while you're thinking about whether you're depressed, and while you're thinking about if you have underlying resentment that is stopping you from being coming forward in these moments, you can ask your wife for support. And if you really fall on your sword and you take ownership of this as a you problem versus how you've been prior saying it's a her problem, like, the fucking kind of test is this? You fucking walk in, you expect that I should. No. Does you think that's going to work? Has it worked? That's not worked. And if you're not the kind who would say things that are aggressive like that, you may be saying passive aggressive stuff like, I guess I didn't realize it was my job to notice when your hair is a quarter inch shorter. I'll make sure to add that to the list of ways that I have failed you. I also got people who are very passive aggressive like that. Either way, you're not being Prince Charming and you know it. So why don't you stop with both of those, aggressive or passive aggressive, and just say, hey, could I have some help? Literally, I want to do the right thing. Something's wrong with me. And also another one to think about is, did anybody notice anybody in your family of origin? Did anybody ever notice your mother's haircut? Now that you think about it, do you even know that your mother used to get her hair cut? Let me tell you, she did. She did, like if it wasn't down to her feet, she did get a haircut. But was that something that was ever discussed? If not, then ding, 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 you know why you don't talk about it now, because you have no language to talk about it at all. It was not done in your family of origin. Your father did not notice your mother's haircut. You were not told to notice your mother's haircut. This, by the way, if you're a mother, if you're a woman listening to this, teach your son to look at your haircut. I mean, I always say this, mothers, teach your son how to recognize feelings, how to be a good spouse one day, right? So say, hey, I got my haircut. Doesn't it look nice? They'll be like, yeah, mommy. All right, cool. Like, now they know. It went into their subconscious. Oh, women get haircut. You're supposed to say it looks nice. That's it. Like it's no big, you don't have to have a big PowerPoint in front of your tween son. You should be saying this stuff to both genders, but women do it with their girls all the time. The girl may even come to get the haircut. But with the boys, they're frequently, in fact, women are like, oh my God, he's just like his father. He doesn't notice my haircut. Man, how's he going to notice your haircut? What he cares about is Legos. So you got to tell him, hey, I got my haircut. Look, you see it's a different color? Look at my hair. Look, good. Oh, okay. It looks good, right? Oh, thank you. And they learn, oh, that's what you do. This is how I am going to be a normative human in the world with women, is engage on how they look if it's different. Oh, noted. And that goes into their algorithm. But anyway, so if you are somebody who never saw it, then you're going to have to teach yourself how to do it in much the ways that I'm telling you to do. Stop, scan, find something positive, see if something's different, do this proactively, and or look at all these other myriad reasons that may be sabotaging your efforts to do so. But enlist your wife's help in the interim while you are learning this new behavior. And things will go a lot better, because then she at least thinks you're trying, right? Doesn't she always say, you're not even trying. You don't even try in this marriage. I feel like I'm putting in all the work in this marriage. I feel like I'm the engine of this marriage. All this shit, right, that you always hear. If any of that resonates, she doesn't even think you try. I mean, no shit, that's what she's saying. So try by saying, I am going to try in XYZ ways, including introspecting into my family of origin, always her favorite topic, when your mother could be blamed for something. Am I wrong? So then she knows that you guys are on board together as a team to work on this couple problem where you notice nothing. All right, hopefully you got something out of this. And if not, it was only 14 minutes of your life. And please do subscribe either way. Talk to you soon.